going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys have been doing well. I have a new piece from my boys over at Garage 16 for our built Civic today. Quite an exciting piece. I've actually never had one of these on the car before, and I hear it greatly increases traction, greatly reduces wheel hop, and front lower control arm bushing tear. When you make power with these cars, the front wheels will tend to rock to the front of the car or the rear of the car depending on what you're doing. So basically what I have here is a Precision Works traction bar. So it runs across the front radiator support and bolts up where the two front tow hook locations are. Take the tow hooks off, bolt it up, and then it has two arms that come back with two plates that bolt onto the front lower control arms, and it just stiffens up the whole front wheel drive assembly basically. So when you're throwing down power like we're planning to do with our built B series and a nice top mount turbo on this thing, it'll greatly help us launch, just drive with that amount of power, especially when and if we can get this thing on the strip this year after it's been boosted. So let's dive into this, see what we got. Okay boys, so we got our Precision Works traction bar, formerly known as our boys at Private Label MFG. If you don't know, now you know. We got a ton of their parts on the Civic, and we are gonna be using one of their parts for the turbo build as well. And you guys will find that out real soon. And here we have it. Precision Works traction bar. So obviously you get all your hardware. These are the little eyelets to go into the running arms. Get two of these brackets. This is what, if my hand was your lower control arm, these go on the lower control arm, and a bar goes from there right to the front. You guys will see shortly, don't worry. Got two of those. We got another kit of hardware, nuts, bolts. And then I'm not too sure what these little anchors are for. I watched a couple videos and everyone on the EG didn't use these and it didn't come in their kit, so it might not be applicable for what we're doing, but it very well could be. And then we have the bars themselves. So as you can see here, we have two bars, and these are what these little eyelets are gonna go into to hold everything solid in place. Here's the bar itself. Very nice fit and finish on everything. Multiple mounting locations. So basically how this works is it goes like this in the car. These ears will mount where the factory tow hooks do. So you take the factory tow hooks off, line these bolts up. These will bolt to the factory tow hook locations. Then you put these little eyelets in these arms and they go right in the middle, and these will run right back to another eyelet that goes right on this plate here, and this plate is on the front lower control arm. So super simple design. Should be a fairly painless install. I say that, knock on wood. 30-year-old bolts can be a pain in the ass, especially 30-year-old bolts that have never come out. I do want to do new front lower control arms on this car. I just don't have them at the moment. So we're gonna start plugging away on this. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna assemble these bars right here. These little eyelets here go into these bars that are threaded on the end. I'm just gonna bottom them out, and then we can loosen them and adjust them from there once we get them on the car and see how they fit. What I'm gonna start with once these are assembled is I'm gonna try and get these brackets on the lower control arms, install these bars to see how far they go out before we put the main piece in. Okay boys, and now that I have both of our adjustable arms installed, I'm gonna go ahead and jack up the car and start taking the two necessary bolts out of the front lower control arms, and I pray they come out okay. Gonna try it out with the new Milwaukee, but might have to hand bomb them. And then from there, we can go ahead, take these plates, and these will sit in here just like this. And then from there, we can start figuring out lengths that go to this bar, because this will sit in here like this. And ideally, these would be flat, and there's your traction bar there to stiffen up the front wheel drive life. This car's low as a motherfucker. We gotta take this bumper off and then jack the front up as much as we can go, crawl under there, get busting nuts. I really need a Mac lifter kit. Someone sponsor me. at this point here, gonna go ahead and dive down here, and I'll bring you guys with me and we'll get started. Now, these brackets right here. So, as you can see, the ear is farther to one side than the other. This ear faces closest to the tire. So for the driver's side right now, I'm going to have it out like this. So this hump is closest to the outside of the car, not the inside. You want this flat part on the inside of the car. So this bracket's gonna go in just like this, tilted and swing right down. Now, let's go ahead and bring you guys down here. So as we can see here, we have got a couple bolts. Now if I bring this bracket and hold it up there, as you can see, there's our two bolt locations there. This one and this one. So this one's a straight through bolt and this one is a nut. So we have to go ahead and take off both of these and then install this bracket. And remember I said these ears face the outside of the car. So they're gonna go like this, not like this. So right there. So let's go ahead and try to take this and this off. We're gonna go ahead, put our Milwaukee on 3. Should do up to around 200 foot-pounds. And we can see we can't get this off. And of course, I need a 1/2-inch swivel. Yep. And that just broke my swivel, just like that. Attempt 2. Let's try and break it with our hands. Oh no. This is gonna be so in there. Shit. Okay guys, well I cannot get these bolts off, so I'm gonna have to strap a breaker bar to it, but in order to do that, I need to take my wheels off. So let's quickly zap those off, try a breaker bar. And I really hope this works. Holy fuck. That's a lot of tension. Come on. I don't like those sounds. And just like that, boys, we broke another f***ing 1/2-inch extension. I'm gonna lose it. Come on. We freaking got it. Now it's just onto the little nut here. Bolt number 2, we get to go in with just an impact this time. So stick it on there. We have it soaking in penetrant. And I like how these rotate back and forth. You ready? Oh, that one came off like butter, baby. Like I say, this one's just a nut. So now what we can go ahead and do is install our bracket right in place, just like that. But before I go ahead and put the bolt back in, I'm just gonna put some anti-seize on it. So here we have a little bit of anti-seize. I'm just gonna go ahead and coat our bolt in this. All right, and just to save you guys a little bit of headache, I put the anti-seize on those bolts and then I just ran them home. As we can see, there's our nut, there's our bolt, and those ears are closest to the knuckle rather than closest to inside the car. So now this is installed. I'm gonna grab one of our links and install it in those little ears, and then we're gonna move on to side number 2. Quick little rundown for you. When installing these bars, obviously it's gonna go into this eyelet, just like that. But it's a nut and bolt operation. So they include these 18mm bolts and these 18mm nuts. Now these two bolts here on the vehicle already are 17s. The nuts they include you, if you get the same kit as me, are 18s. But you have a bolt and a nut. And what you don't want to do is take this bolt and slide it up like this and put the nut on top. Because if the nut were to ever wiggle itself loose, gravity will do its work, drop this bolt, and now half your traction bar is disconnected, right, dragging on the ground. Whereas if you put the bolt in from the top and the bottom nut rocks loose, at least this will still be sitting there as an anchor and it can't really go anywhere. So put the top from the bottom down. What you're gonna have to do is back off the nut and let this swing down a bit so you can drop this in and then put it back in, because the axle shaft is in the way from going to the top, but I promise you it's worth it. You want the bolt to go from the top, not from the bottom. Okay, and now that one of our arms is in place, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side off camera because it's a lot tighter over there and you guys already know what's going on now. 2 bolts ear as close to the knuckle as possible. You don't want it inside the car, and you're gonna need to loosen this one and have this one off so you can swing in this bolt from the top. We just have to put the nut on the bottom, tighten it up. I'm gonna do the other side and we're gonna pick it back up when we start taking off these tow hook ears to put the actual front piece of the bar on. Note to self, the top of this bolt going through is an 18 and the bottom, this nut, is a 19. You're not gonna wanna fully do these up yet. You can go ahead and snug up this and snug up this, but you don't wanna snug up this bolt yet because we're gonna need this to articulate and swivel in and out depending on where our crossbar goes. So not long later, we have one of our bars installed and we have the other one installed as well. Now it's time to move on to this black bar. So the way you're gonna wanna position this is just like I have it. Ears up and these ears in towards the car because these ears are going to accept these eyelets here. As you can see, mine's up and down. I'm gonna need to twist it just like that to be able to fit in place. And where these go is gonna be with 3 bolts and they're gonna replace the tow hook. So as you can see, if you come in here, you have those 3 bolts right there holding the tow hook on. You're gonna take both side tow hooks off and then replace those with these. And then this bar will be held up across the front and connect to those 2 bars we just put in. But this side tow hook's gonna be really hard to get to because the radiator's in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off my Circuit Hero plate we just put on in last video. And I'm gonna take the stay off and I'm just gonna lightly pick up the radiator and slide it over this way. And while we're at it, I'm probably gonna take off my catch can because with the B18, I don't want this here. I want it in a different location. So I'm probably just gonna take the whole system off today when we're moving this radiator. Okay boys, well there's bracket number 1 and here is bracket number 2. These are your tow hooks, so keep those safe in case you want to use them again. But out of that deal, you should have got yourself 6 bolts and 6 washers. That's what you use, 3 for the left, 3 for the right, and this is what we're going to be using for these bolts on here. And as you can tell, there's multiple bolt locations, so you're just going to have to eye it up and see which one works best for you. You're gonna need to use 3, just like what was used on the tow hooks. For me, I had to just swivel my Circuit Hero plate out of the way, pop up the radiator, move that, and I also took off my vent system because I do not like the location. I'd like to put it in a new location when we do the new build with the B18B. So I'm gonna have to put all this back together, but first I wanna wrap up the traction bar. Hopefully you guys can see this well enough. This is going to swing up here and bolt in just like that to the 3 bolt locations. They do reveal themselves. It's super hard to see, but I'm going to go ahead and install this and I'll come back with you guys and show you the finished result. And just like that, the traction bar is put in place It runs across the whole front radiator support and is bolted on where the factory tow hooks are. 3 bolts aside. There you go. There's those 3 bolts there aside. Snug those down, and then you have this nice meaty bar on the front that ain't going absolutely anywhere. Now you can grab your arms and put them in the eyelets and adjust them to length. To do that, you just want to go even on both sides. If you back this one off a quarter turn, back that one off a quarter turn, so on and so forth. Okay boys, and just like that, we've got our bracket put onto our front lower control arm, and then we've taken off the factory tow hook locations and replaced those 3 bolts with the 3 already drilled out holes on the bar. It just used the top ones. I haven't raised it at all. This is the lowest setting it can go, and these bars were basically dead on from there to there from factory, so I didn't even have to adjust them. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to snug this down from here. As you can see, they're pretty well tight, so I'm just going to lock these nuts down, and then what you're going to want to do just one more final time is just go over everything and make sure it's all tight. If you remember, we had left these ones loose just so they could articulate a little bit more freely. So once this is done, you can go ahead and tighten up everything. But how rad does this look under the car? You got this one, you got the one down there, and then you have the big bar coming all the way up. This is going to greatly help with wheel hop, torque steer, things like that. Since these bushings won't be flexing as much or at all really, because it's all braced and supported now, you won't be running through as many bushings when you're making high horsepower either. Traction bar is a definite must do in my book if you have a Civic, especially a turbo one that's going to be making some crazy power. All right boys, and with all that being said and done, our traction bar is now installed on our built EG hatch, and soon the B16 will be coming out for the non-VTEC B18 with a built head studded, top mount turbo, bunch of power, boost by gear. It's going to be insane. But today we have the first piece to the boost puzzle, and that's keeping the front tires where they are, reducing wheel hop, reducing torque steer, putting the power down to the road, and making this thing an absolute rocket ship. So just a quick recap. We have these brackets back here that bolt to the front lower control arm using the factory bolts, and then one of the eyelets goes through, drop one of the supplied nut and bolts in, and this arm and that bracket are installed. Moving up here, this is your front tow hook location on both sides. Take your tow hook off, use the 3 bolts per side to bolt in this crossbar. And then from there, the eyelet goes into the crossbar with another one of the nut and bolts provided. Tighten everything down, and then you just want to thread this arm until there starts to get some tension in between the two, and then you want to go ahead and lock these nuts. And remember, we're not locking these nuts up against the eyelets, we're locking it up against the bar. So twist this so it tightens against the bar and not against the eyelet. You'd think that this wouldn't be something I'd have to mention, but unfortunately it is. You want to tighten this down to the bar, not the nut to the eyelet. So I got everything tight, nothing moves, nothing rattles. It's all 100% solid. I just have to go put the radiator and whatnot back in, but you guys have seen that a million times before. I want you guys to let me know if you're excited for this car to go boosted and lay down some power, because I certainly am. With all that being said, and that new part installed, shout out to my boys at Private Label MFG, and shout out to my boys for supplying me this through Garage 16. Love both you guys. Hope we can continue to work together in the future. And until next time, boys, comment, like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on, because you are not going to miss the content we have planned for this car. I promise you that. Till next time, boys, peace out.